Greetings and welcome back to room 303, and we are now speaking, of course, under some very interesting times. School closings across America have now reached Worland, and Worland High School and room 303 is now going fully online. Now, of course, because of LearnStrong.net, we have always had an online presence, and as you know, you've been following those lectures for a long time. But now, of course, we're ready to address specific submission guidelines. Let's go ahead and avoid the most obvious, it gets dark at night observations that this is, of course, a time of great anxiety and great stress. And let's go ahead and address instead the things we can control. Now, the very first observations that I want to make is that you have already watched, this is an important assumption, you've already watched my comments regarding the C-19 emergency and the global pandemic and a literary response to that. If you haven't watched that yet, then go ahead, I would recommend, leave this video, go watch that video, just so you have a sense of my orientation, and I would hope our orientation here in 303 to the experiences and the events that are now happening around us. We will argue in that video not happening events that are happening to us, but rather events that are happening for us. And again, I really do hope that that lecture set of comments will give you some sense of what I have to say about the pandemic as it relates to philosophic ideas and the like. Here, all we're going to do is to talk specifically about how we get through this experience and, of course, finish the experience of our semester, this spring semester of the year 2020. Now, it seems to me there's one of two possibilities, right? One is that we will be back together before the end of the semester, and we will again meet and study face-to-face in 303. The other is that we won't, that we will go ahead and finish our semester online. We have provided for you at LearnStrong.net then some submission guidelines that I am hoping we can now go through. And we'll plan, obviously, for both contingencies. I would love it, obviously, that I could have you back here in 303 with me specifically. But as we know, there's the potentiality that maybe we won't be together before the end of the semester, and so we've obviously got a plan for both. Now, to follow this lecture, I need you to open up both of the handouts that are available for you at LearnStrong.net. So find those now, open those, have those available to you. I'm going to go through both of those. The first of those two is the C-19 emergency protocol plans. Okay, and I'll be talking with you about that one. And then I'm going to go to the C-19 documents submission guidelines. Okay, and so we're going to look at both of those for a few minutes. We'll read through them. And obviously, if you have questions, you can email me. The website, LearnStrong.net, has an email address there. Obviously, I'm very, very happy to have comments and questions that come from you. All right? Now, right away, let's point out, when you look at what's listed even below those two handouts, you will see the new master schedule comments for each class. Okay? And right away you're going to notice that there are some things removed. Has to happen this way. I apologize for those things that are removed, like, for example, exams and AR tests. If you were here in 303, obviously you'd be smiling at the comment that I'm making right now. But the reality is there are just some things we can't so easily do online. We will do other things to make sure our submission guidelines are all met. Let's go through them now quickly. I'm reading now the general comments on the emergency, Worland High School closing to the C-19 virus, the 303 expectations for the rest of the spring 2020, assuming, obviously, that you never return. Once you're back in 303, we'll obviously return back to our normal protocol. The first observation is that every week, from here until we return back to 303, you are expected to submit a single Word document that contains both your annotation in question sets as well as your 5-paragraph essay. All right? So one single document, you're going to put all this information into a Word document that you will then put in Turnitin. We will use Turnitin as our submission guideline, it will be there that then I will read your material. So in other words, you won't be handing anything physically into me, obviously, by virtue of the virus itself concerns. Number 2, you're going to submit this single Word document to Turnitin by Friday 3 p.m. That will be our deadline date for every week, right? Each week that you're not in class with me, that's what you'll be doing, all right? I'm going to post grades then on Infinite Campus sometime following, all right? You obviously want to study Infinite Campus to see what score you received on your work, all right? Number 3, you will follow the template that is provided, that's the other document, okay, provided on LearnStrong, and you're going to submit your single file on Turnitin. We'll be using, again, Turnitin to make sure that all work you submit is your own work. Obviously, that's why we're working with Turnitin, okay? Number 4, you are expected to watch my lectures on LearnStrong.net. You're expected to flow them, take notes over them, and then you're going to type up those notes over each of those lectures, okay? Then you're going to type up an annotation using, obviously, our 3 levels of reading. You'll then answer the after you read questions set, okay, that always will follow, almost always will follow all the titles. Some of the titles don't have the question sets provided, and so obviously you'll just put in A there, okay, for those. And then you're going to have to type up the answers to those questions, but not the actual question. In other words, I don't want you to type up the wording of all those questions. We'll have issues with originality on Turnitin if you do that, because obviously every one of you will be obviously having the same words. So don't type up the actual question, just type up your response to the question, all right? And again, keep those very brief, just to show me that you've given some thought to the question itself, all right? Number 5, finally, of course, you're expected to type up your traditional academic 5-paragraph essay response to the assigned topic, and the assigned topic there will be on the class master schedule that's posted on the homepage of LearnStrong.net, right below where you open these other 2 documents that you're now looking at, right? Just to finish that one, the ABC students are expected to provide 3 pieces of internal validation, that is to say, quotes directly from the text, and 5 pieces of external validation, quotes, when it is in fact asked for. You'll notice that on some of the assignments, again, looking at your master schedule information, those kinds of external validation requirements will be expected. Other times, they will not, okay? Now, by the way, our no-fill students are only required to provide the 3 pieces of internal validation quotes, and obviously not the external validation quotes per our normal protocol in 303. Number 6, as we've already said, if you are a no-fill student, you're going to basically conduct yourself now outside of 303 the way you've conducted yourself inside 303. That is to say, you'll watch the LearnStrong lectures and you'll flow them, and you have to type up as well those notes, that flow, to show us that you've done it, obviously, and you have to type up the required 5-paragraph essay. You don't have to make a formal annotation at our 3 levels, okay? And you don't need to answer any of the question sets for the no-fail submissions, all right? Each of you will state, actually at the very beginning of your submission, your 1-page Word submission, you'll actually state at the beginning of the document what score that you feel like you deserve for the work that you've done. And obviously, if you're a no-fail student, you're just simply going to provide me with the capital N, capital F for the no-fail score of 60, all right? By the way, you have been invited already to join our Google Classroom. Those codes are down below on this very handout. And I very much want you to go there, because any kind of updating information will often happen through our Google Classroom intel there, right? And obviously, as we finish this handout, if you have any questions whatsoever, you need to email me directly, or obviously you can consult Room Captain. I would very much stay in touch with Room Captain throughout this experience, no doubt. Okay? All right, let's go now to the template for submission real quickly. That's the other handout there, and we want to walk through that one real quickly. All right, for each single submission that you turn it in. I'm literally just reading now with you off of this handout and then making observations as we go. Again, every Friday, 3 o'clock. Obviously, you can turn it in before Friday if you're so inclined. You should follow the template provided here. That is to say, what you type up as your single Word document needs to look like this, all right? And let's go through it now. Number one, obviously at the top you're going to provide your name, your class period, and the read-write packet number as per the master schedule information that's there provided for you at the bottom of LearnStrong. And obviously the date that it's due, which is the Friday, obviously, of that week. All right? At the beginning, you're going to provide a comment about what score you believe you deserve for the packet, given the amount of work that you've done. If you've done all the assigned work, then obviously you can ask or request a score of a 100 points, right? Not to say that you'll get it, but you can at least request it. If you're a no-fill student, obviously typing in an F, capital N and F, will be the way that you let me know that, just as we have done in the past, all right? I'll pause for a moment and answer this question. Mr. McGee, what about the assignments that were still out for a number of our students when school closing happened? Two observations, contingencies. One, you finally come back to 303 before the end of the semester, and we make that material up as quarter 4 scoring. Two, you never come back to 303 at the end of by the end of the semester, and so anything that was driven by possibly an online submission through Turnitin, that is to say our writing or that kind of thing, obviously you want to do that. If we're talking about an exam or something like that, then we're probably going to have to negotiate that through some experience of Google Classroom and the like. You need to be contacting me if you are one of those students. All right? Now let's return. I've done number 1. I've done number 2 on this handout for submission template. Let's go to number 3. You're going to provide headings that will give us the page numbers of a single text, the title and the author of that text. Then you're going to provide a typed flow of the lecture over that text. And again, this single document can go on for a number of pages. That's quite all right. Let's just make sure we get all the information provided, all right? At number 5, you're going to provide a typed annotation of the 3 levels of reading, unless, of course, you're no-fail. And again, just to remind, I've provided you with those levels of reading as we qualify them. Level 1, summarize the text briefly. Level 2A, provide 3 themes or messages in your own words. Level 2B, provide the literary analysis in your own words that you're explaining it. And again, just to remind, it's always on that page called Before You Read. Now, if you end up with a text where you do not have a Before You Read literary analysis topic, then you'll just have to say something about the rhetorical nature of the text after you've read it. In other words, not what the text says, but how it says it. So, for example, it might be a literary technique of a kind, a literary device, or something like that. You can always talk, if you're talking about fiction, a conflict that you see resonant, or if you're talking poetics, it may have something to do with stanza development, something specific to the rhetorical techniques involved, right? Again, if you're confused, I'm working with this text, I don't know specifically what it to be you'd like for me to work with, just email me. I'm available. Actually, you guys, I am in this room 303 while you are not, and so I'm monitoring my email. Your ability to contact me, I will quickly respond back to you, all right? Finally, at level 3A, list 3 titles that relate somehow with the text. Provide a brief statement. This is important. Provide a brief statement of why or how these texts relate. Doesn't have to be long. And then finally at 3B, here, just to remind, 5-sentence paragraph where you somehow try to relate personally to the text. As you know, most of my lectures, obviously, I try to talk about the title from all 3 perspectives, and I even often give questions that are specific to each one of those different levels of reading. Okay? Number 6. After you've done that, for each title, you're going to provide the typed responses to the question sets on the After You Read pages. Again, all you're doing is typing answers. I do not need the wording of the actual question. I obviously know what that is. Now, there already has to be this question, and we'll come back to it a bit. What if I don't have my textbook with me? I left it at Worland High School. I don't have it in my possession now. What specifically should I be doing? Several answers. 1, if we're dealing with a text that can be easily found online, use the online ability to gain that text. Okay? 2, you can always consult a colleague and or room captain who will be able to provide you with some kind of facsimile of either the text and or the preparing to read page and or the after you read information. In other words, there are ways for you to try to derive that information. And I know that Worland High School is working to be able to get you your textbooks and that kind of thing, your resources from our school. I think that just has to happen in a very consistent and methodical fashion, and that will be happening, I think, in the days to come. In other words, your textbook should be something that will come to you in the next few days. If for some reason you don't get your textbook until later, then obviously you're going to put this information together, and when you submit it to me online, the very first thing you're going to say at the top is, this is past the deadline. However, the reason it's past the deadline is because I did not have all of my materials handy, and so I had to wait until I did. Okay? And again, you can always write to me. We can always find ways to be able, through digitizing a page or whatever, to get you the important information. Again, we probably will use Google Classroom for some of that methodology, all right? I'm at number 7 in the work here now. Your type 5-paragraph essay with a works cited page of external validation is required. Again, be sure to follow our skeleton guide, or your packet could receive a no-fail score for not following. In other words, make sure you're following exactly what we have always expected of you for the skeleton guide, right? However, don't submit your final paper to turn it in until you've worked through Paperator, and obviously until you've received a score of Paperator of at least 80% or higher. And again, at the very end of your paper, one of the last things I'll be looking for is reporting that Paperator score. I know in the past we used to do it on our cover sheets. Obviously, we're not doing a cover sheet anymore, and so this will be the methodology for us. Okay. Number 8. Students, as we've already said, who don't have their textbook, you've got to figure out now how you're going to do that. Either with me, I recommend that you hit up room captain, or obviously a colleague to be able to obtain a copy of the text, unless, of course, we can find a way to get you a textbook from Moreland High School, okay? And finally, number 9, no-fail students, again, only responsible for watching our lectures on LearnStrong, flowing and typing the notes from that lecture, and writing your 5-paragraph essay with your 3 required pieces of internal validation quotes, and obviously, as well, your Paperator score. By the way, you needn't worry about writing down your Turnitin score for me. I'm obviously going to see that when I open up your document on Turnitin. I'll read your document on Turnitin, and obviously I will score it. Now, hypercritical. You will find multiple submission details in terms of different assignments on Turnitin. Make sure you are referencing the correct read-write packet number. Do you got me? So in other words, don't just go to Turnitin and the first read-write packet that potentially you see, submit there. Make sure you get it correctly. Several of you have already submitted the read-write packets that are coming due for Friday, March 20th. Read-write packet number 10. I've noticed already several of you did that. Obviously, that was just your paper. So what I'm going to need you to do is to go back. I'm going to need you to obviously, provide this submissions guidelines, and then go ahead and resubmit then back into Turnitin. Now, it may be that your self-plagiarizing score will be a little higher for that, and if that's the case, then go ahead and monitor that and write me a note at the very top. Okay? Well, guys, there's your information for submission guidelines. Obviously, we are in a seriously different time, and obviously, flexibility is the key. My hope is that we can continue to discuss key ideas, and you can continue to learn through this process. I will give you every bit of help that I can give to you. Obviously, I'm an email away, and we'll try and work that way primarily through our LearnStrong site. I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that we can continue to grow as students and as scholars. Thank you.